Hi, boys and girls, it's Mrs. Haley. Today we're going to do some things a little bit different. Usually you get to see me on the video, but today we're going to actually kind of videotape our workspace because today is Whale Wednesday and we are going to be reading one of my favorite books, Dear Mr. Blueberry. And this book isn't like other books. If you can see, when we open it up, instead of just having the text on this, everything is written in letters. And this little girl named Emily is going to write to her teacher, Mr. Blueberry, about something that she's found in her pond. And she's going to ask Mr. Blueberry all kinds of questions about what she found in her pond. And so today we're going to read about Emily and Dear Mr. Blueberry. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to get some supplies, and I actually put it at the bottom of this video so that you have them ready before you do the watch the viewing. So what we're going to need today is you're going to need a blank piece of paper, and if you want to use the back of another piece of paper, that's okay as well. A pencil works best to begin with, at least. Also, a Sharpie marker might be okay, depending if you want to use that. I don't know if you have that or not, or maybe you have another black marker. I'm going to use a ruler. I'm also going to use something that I got out of my Easter basket. Maybe you guys got some things. I'm going to use jelly beans today. So if you have jelly beans, you could use that. If you don't have jelly beans, you can use paper clips or something that you're going to use to measure. I'm going to use jelly beans because that's fun. All right, so first of all, go ahead and grab your materials, and I'll give you a couple seconds to do that, and then we'll get started. I'll meet you right back here. All right, boys and girls, hopefully you have your supplies. We're going to start with our piece of paper, and we're going to turn it this way so that we have a nice space that goes side to side, and we're going to use our pencil first. And the reason I'm going to do this is because we're going to draw something that Emily found in her pond. I bet you can make a prediction about what that might be. If today's Whale Wednesday, what might she have found in her pond? A whale. So I'm actually going to show you how to draw a whale. Now, it's not the exact one that Emily found in her pond, but I think I'm not a very good artist, so I'm going to try to do the best that I can. This is a cute little whale, I think. So like I said, not a good artist, which means you guys can try your best as well. But I'm going to teach you how to draw a very simple whale. All right, so we're going to start by drawing the letter C. See how I drew the letter C? And then we are going to draw right here the letter U. And I'm actually going to connect the top of the letter U like that. And we're going to make his flipper there. And then we're going to draw a little circle for his eye. And we can make a little black spot in there for his pupil. And by the way, feel free to stop the video if you want, just to kind of catch up if I'm going too fast, so you can stop it and then start it when you're ready to go. The next thing we're going to draw is his mouth. We're going to draw his mouth all the way up to right below his eyeball. How's it going? Good? All right, then we're going to pick up on the other side of the U to go to kind of the middle of the page like that. And you see how I started with the C and I kind of left a spot? I'm going to leave that spot there. I'm not going to start right from there, but I am going to come down here. And underneath here, I'm going to draw just a little line like that. And then I'm going to do his tail. You can do his tail any way you want. I'm going to draw like this. And then come in like that to make his tail. Now you're probably wondering why I left this little opening up here. I'm going to tell you why that is. Because this is what we call his blowhole. And he's going to be squirting some water out of there. So we're going to do a little water. And I'm going to do another little water over here. And then I'm going to do another little spray. And another little spray on this side a little bit higher. And then one in the middle. And that's my whale. Hopefully you were able to draw something. I told you, not the best artist, but that's the best that I could do. And as long as I try my best, this is what I always tell you. Make sure you try your best and then you can be proud. So that's my little whale today. Like I said, it's not the one that Emily found in her pond, but it's kind of like it. It gives you an idea. So we're going to use this paper right here to collect some of our thoughts today. Because like I told you, Dear Mr. Blueberry is a little bit different. Because number one, even though it's a made-up story, and we call that fiction, it actually has some facts about whales in it that we can learn. So we're going to go ahead and put that up there. We're going to use this to collect some of our thoughts. But before that, I've decided, since I drew a whale, I'm going to measure him. Because I know I can measure this whale and that'll tell me how big whales are. All right? Are you ready? So get your items to measure with. I'm going to start with my jelly beans. Let's see how big this whale is by using jelly beans. So I'm going to do this and I'm going to put one jelly bean there and one jelly bean there and one jelly bean there and one jelly bean there. So my whale is 4 jelly beans long. It's not? What did I do wrong? Oh, I have to make sure my jelly beans are side by side. They can't have spaces in between. Go ahead and take your jelly beans or your paper clips or your M&Ms or anything you can find. Make sure you have Mom and Dad's permission first. And let's make sure our jelly beans are touching as we measure, or we won't get an accurate measurement. So let's see our jelly beans as we measure. I'm going to go all the way from the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail. Because if I just stopped there, would that be the whole whale? No, we got to go the whole way. Uh-oh. I'm going to have a little extra there. That's okay. We'll just make it an estimate. So let's see how many jelly beans long my whale is. I'm going to put these extras back. All right, you ready? We're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, it's almost 9 jelly beans long. So I'm going to write that down here just so I can remember, because I told you I'm getting old. I have to write things down. 9 jelly beans long. The reason I say long, because I measured him this way. That's how long he is. Now, if I wanted to measure him to see how wide he is or how tall he is, I could measure up and down. So I can do that. I can measure all kinds of things. I could measure his tail. I could measure his fin. Oh, I'm not fin. His little flapper. I could measure all kinds of different ways. So I could say that this whale is 4 jelly beans tall. So I could write that down. Now, if I don't want to use jelly beans and I want to use, let's say, a ruler, I could do that too. I could take my ruler and put this right on the tip of my nose and go all the way to the tip of my tail. And about how many inches long is this whale? What does it say? About 5 inches. So I could say he's about 5 inches long. And if I wanted to see how tall he is, I could do the same thing I did with my jelly beans, but use my ruler, and he's about 2 1/4. If I wanted to estimate, I could say he's about 2 inches tall, and I could write that down. Doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of making an estimate. So I can tell everybody in the world that whales are either 9 jelly beans long or 5 inches long, right? Do you think that's accurate? Do you think whales are this big? You're right. Even though I had fun measuring my own whale, that is absolutely not the way that whales are in the world. This is just a fun thing to do, just to practice some of your math skills and practice some of your drawing skills. And now we're going to practice some of our reading skills. All right, so remember I told you we're going to collect some information on this page? We're going to use this as our organizer. And I'm actually just going to kind of draw some lines out here. You know what you can do later on? If you want to draw your whale again, you could play the part of the video at the beginning. And then you could draw a whale and you could make the waves and you could make the ocean and the sky, and you could make this just a pretty picture for you. But right now we're going to collect some information. All right, so I'm going to keep my pencil and I'm going to get my book ready to read. Before I do that, we're going to take a little break. Go ahead and get everything set for you. This is all set up and I'll see you right back here. Okay, I'm back. I cleaned off my area. I'm ready to start talking about my book. Actually, you know what else I did? I took my whale and I took my Sharpie marker and I traced over it. So now he's ready to collect some facts. So we determined that probably jelly beans isn't a good way to measure a whale. In fact, we probably would need something bigger than jelly beans or a ruler, because large mammals that live in the ocean are whales. Much bigger than what we have to measure with. So today we're going to learn a little bit about whales. In my book, remember I talked about Dear Mr. Blueberry? And like I said, this book's a little bit different because it's a made-up story and it has characters and it has a setting and it has a problem and a solution. So it's just like the story elements we'd find in a fictional story, except it has some facts in it. And usually when we talk about facts, it's in informational text. I like it though when I can read something that's fun and also learn from it. So that's why I love Dear Mr. Blueberry. And I noticed that this is like a postage mark, and she lives in Nantucket, Massachusetts, which is close to the ocean. So maybe that's why she thinks there's a whale in her pond. Let's read Dear Mr. Blueberry. And this is written by Simon James. Hopefully you can see the pictures. Before we do that though, I always like to talk a little bit about some of the words that we're going to encounter because I want to make sure that you understand them before we do that. So here's what we have today. We have the word migrate. See the word migrate? Migrate is something I think you've probably heard about maybe in science or in some of the other texts that you've read. I bet you all know what migrate means. What does it mean when an animal migrates? You're right. It means that they leave one place to go to another place, and usually it's to meet their needs. So it's kind of an adaptation that they have. So for example, some of the bird population in Ohio doesn't stay around the whole entire winter because they can't find food or a warm place to live. So they migrate to a warmer section of the United States or world. And then when the weather starts to change, they come back. So actually migrating just means that you're kind of wandering from one place to another. And if you look at the word migrate, I'm going to show you, I don't have my marker right here. I'm going to show you that this is actually containing a root word. And the root word is migra. And that's actually a Latin root word. And it actually means to leave a place. So if you find any words with that migra root word in it, that's going to tell you that that means something about leaving. So one of the things that you might have encountered before is migratory. And that just means this specific species is able or does migrate to another section of the United States or another section of the world to meet their needs. Some animals are migratory, some are not. My squirrels that actually, my window's right out here and I can see them, they're running around and chasing each other in the front yard. My squirrels are not migratory. They stay in my yard all year. But like I said, some of the birds that live in Ohio are migratory. I bet you can think of other animals that are too. But that's what you're going to find in this book is migratory. I bet you can find the root word migra and a couple other things. Immigration. Immigration means when you are leaving a country to come into another country and permanently settle there, not vacation, to actually live there. So that's another word with that root in it. So maybe you could look for other words that contain that migra root word. All right, so if we're talking about migratory, I'm guessing that you might think that maybe whales are migratory. Let's see what Mr. Blueberry says. Dear Mr. Blueberry, remember I told you it's going to be a bit of a different text because it's in letters. All right, but we still know the characters are Mr. Blueberry, her teacher, and Emily. All right, here we go. Dear Mr. Blueberry, I love whales very much, and I think I saw one in my pond today. Please send me some information on whales, as I think he might be hurt. Love, Emily. Look at that pond that she says he's living in. Do you think this is a true story? Do you think she's imagining it? What do you think's happening? So Mr. Blueberry writes back to her. Mr. Blueberry says, Dear Emily, here are some details about whales. I don't think you'll find it was a whale that you saw because whales don't live in ponds. They live in salt water. Yours sincerely, your teacher, Mr. Blueberry. Now remember that paper that we drew our whale on we're going to use for an organizer? What did Mr. Blueberry just tell us about whales? Where do they live? They live in a pond? No. They live in salt water. And where do we find salt water? Some of you may have been there before. I can tell you where I find salt water. I find it in the ocean. So could a whale be living in her pond? I don't know. Dear Mr. Blueberry, I am now putting salt into the pond every day before breakfast, and last night I saw my whale smile. I think he's feeling better. Do you think he might be lost? Love, Emily. I don't think Mom and Dad are going to be happy about her wasting that salt in the pond. Because it would take a lot of salt to fill that up, wouldn't it? Oh, Emily. Dear Emily, oh my goodness, please don't put any more salt in the pond. I'm sure your parents won't be pleased. I'm afraid there can't be a whale in your pond because whales don't get lost. They always know where they are in the oceans. Yours sincerely, Mr. Blueberry. So what did we just learn from Mr. Blueberry? Do they get lost? No, it says they always know where they are. So I'm going to put that down. We could write they don't get lost in the ocean. I wonder how that happens. I'm going to write that on my organizer. There I did. We know they live in salt water. And they can't or don't get lost when they're in the ocean. All right, let's see what else Mr. Blueberry tells us. Dear Mr. Blueberry, tonight I'm very happy because I saw my whale jump up and spurt lots of water. He looked blue. Does this mean he might be a blue whale? Love, Emily. P.S. What can I feed him with? Does he look like our whale? A little bit, maybe, huh? Dear Emily, blue whales are blue, and they eat tiny shrimp-like creatures that live in the sea. However, I must tell you that a blue whale is much too big to live in your pond. Yours sincerely, Mr. Blueberry. Perhaps it's a blue goldfish. So what did we learn in that one? They're big. So probably not 9 jelly beans long. Much bigger than that. So he says they're really big. So I'm going to write that. And what do they eat? Do you remember what they eat? They eat shrimp-like creatures. You know what we might call that sometime? Plankton. Have you ever heard of plankton? So right now, Mr. Blueberry's thinking, you know what, Emily, maybe it's not a whale. Maybe it's a blue goldfish. I didn't even know they had blue goldfish. I'm going to have to look that up and see if he's right. Dear Mr. Blueberry. There she is. Look how large the whale is. Much bigger than I think that pond is. Last night I read your letter to my whale. Afterward, he let me stroke his head. It was very exciting. I secretly took him some crunched up cornflakes and breadcrumbs. This morning, I looked in the pond and they were all gone. I think I shall call him Arthur. What do you think? Love, Emily. I guess if there's no shrimp-like creatures, he'd have to eat cornflakes. Oh, dear Emily. I bet Mr. Blueberry's just really getting frustrated with her, huh? I must point out to you quite forcibly now. Oh, yeah, he's getting frustrated. Forcibly means he's forcing this on her. I must point out to you quite forcibly now that in no way could a whale live in your pond. You may not know that whales are migratory, there's our word, which means they travel great distances. I am sorry to disappoint you. Yours sincerely, Mr. Blueberry. Uh-oh, I'm going to add that to my paper. They're migratory. Dear Mr. Blueberry, tonight I'm a little sad. Arthur has gone. I think your letter made sense to him, and he has decided to be migratory again. Love, Emily. Dear Emily, please don't be too sad. It really was impossible for a whale to live in your pond. Perhaps when you are older, you would like to sail the oceans studying and protecting whales. Whales. Yours sincerely, Mr. Blueberry. Dear Mr. Blueberry, it's been the happiest day. I went to the beach and you'll never guess, but I saw Arthur. I called to him and he smiled. I knew it was Arthur because he let me stroke his head just like he did in our pond. I gave him some of my sandwich because he looked hungry. And then we said goodbye. I shouted that I loved him very much, and I hope you don't mind, but I said you loved him too. Love, Emily and Arthur. The end. I saw some conflict in that between the two characters. Not a mean conflict, but just one where Mr. Blueberry was determined to try to talk Emily out of believing that that whale was in her pond. And Emily was determined to tell Mr. Blueberry, yes, Arthur was in the pond. What do you think? Do you think that really happened? Or do you think that was her imagination? Here's what we learned about whales in our book. Even though it was a fiction book, we did get to learn some information. First of all, we learned that they eat shrimp-like creatures. We also learned that they live in salt water. We learned that they don't get lost in the ocean. They always know their way around. They must have built-in GPS. We learned that they're very, very big. Bigger than M&Ms, bigger than jelly beans, bigger than my ruler. And we learned that they're migratory, which means they move about in order to meet their needs. Here's what I would like you to do. We're done for today, but tomorrow we're going to take this and we're going to do an activity with it. So if you want to meet me back here tomorrow, you can do that and we can do another activity. And if it's okay with your parents, if you click right down at the bottom, you can subscribe to my channel, and then you'll know when I post new videos. Also, if you want to collect some more information on your paper, I also have posted some videos down below in the description that you can watch and maybe learn some more things you could add to your paper. It's up to you. Have fun on Whale Day. I'll see you tomorrow.